The word is flummoxed. I'm flummoxed. That's what I am. I'm flummoxed. And let's explain why. This is the Adam Carolla Subreddit Podcast. I'm your host, Ken Braverman. I've been around for a while. I've done it all. I've had beers with Richard Parker. Yep. There are people who know what that phrase means. I know it's an inside joke, but yeah, I've been around the bend. And I've been an Adam Carolla fan for, I guess it's like over half my life now, right? Because I think I started when I was about 15 or 16, maybe listening to Loveline. Definitely when I started driving, about 16. So I'm 43 years old now. That makes me an Adam Carolla fan for like 61 years. Sometimes I'm not good at math. No, it's what is that? Almost 27, 37, and then another like 5 or 6. Wow. We're talking about a quarter of a century, people. So when I and many others in this subreddit complain about the Ace fan, we'll talk about some complaints. We'll talk about Nuke Dukem's post here, because there's a lot to discuss in this here. It's about what we want to focus on, really. And this is going to be a podcast about understanding that human beings are multidimensional, and we've just in the last generation, in these last 25 years almost that I speak about, as technology has evolved from just the radio airwaves, where you could listen while you're driving to the radio, and there weren't podcasts, there weren't individual slices of media other than cassette tapes and CDs and 8 tracks. I continue to clean out an old house sometimes. I was cleaning out an old house and I was finding all these old electronic devices and a Walkman, Discman, all kinds of things. But these were recorded pieces of content that were not new and not fresh and not live. Now the world has changed. And because of that, we get to see so many different sides of a person's personality that you're going to have. There's a lot to talk about today. I mean, Adam Carolla has fired the cancers, the one person who was cancer stricken and another person who we thought was the other one was the cancer on the show, in our opinion, with Gunta. Like that stuff happened. So they're like, there's no ads going on the show now. Now it's kind of like a Ken Braverman podcast where it's just gone and done, and there isn't breaking, there isn't paying bills, there's just doing. So you got to give him credit for doing the content, and it's been good. If from what I've listened to, it hasn't been all this, and we'll get to this in a second. I'll finish my thought about being multidimensional personalities as well, because you're getting to see a guy who's going to ask a comedian, dirty. She's a dirty, porny comedian. She's funny, but she is crude. There's a lot of like repetitive vowels and consonants in her name here. Kieran Fian. Okay. Now, he's asking her about OnlyFans. And truly asking, like, how does it work? I also do not know how it works. I haven't used OnlyFans. I guess I would be ashamed, sort of, to use OnlyFans. I've never paid for porn. I guess, like, you don't have to pay for porn, right? At least probably pay with your data, but you don't pay with your money usually. At least I don't. There's no need to. So going on to OnlyFans involves paying money for extra stuff. Now, I guess. And of course, it's like, oh, you know somebody and they have an OnlyFans account. I've potted about this before on this topic, but I haven't. I don't have an account. She's making me want to get an account, and not for the bad reasons. So anyway, point is, you're able to see Adam asking questions and then being so crude and really funny and really not PC, and something that you can only get away with on a podcast where you know that you're going to get this kind of content downloading it. Like, you can't have this kind of content sort of free flowing on YouTube as like, as like, if you wanted to call political commentator Adam Carolla or something. That's not the part 2 that you'd want to listen to. And that gets into this other aspect that I want to talk about, which is you get to see a lot of someone's personality and their opinions and emotionally charged opinions on all types of different topics. And we are all human. I'm going to make excuses for Adam because I make excuses for myself. And I think we can all make excuses for each other on this one. We're all human. Part of being human makes mistakes and not getting perfect information all the time and forming our opinions off of imperfect information all the time. And a lot of times one side will look at the other side and say that they're completely ignorant and not listening to stuff, and one other side is just not hearing it. Well, that's the way that we are as human beings. So if we're going to see all these different sides of Adam Carolla, the funny, porny one, and also this one about him screaming about black on black shooting crime or something. But I'll use this example along with other examples that I heard in the show. He also complained about everyone focusing in on the Bills football player, DeMar. I don't remember the name right. I actually wasn't paying attention to the football game, but he talked about everyone in the whole world basically, all of a sudden praying for the guy who had cardiac arrest on the field. And of course, that emotionally charged moment happens, and oftentimes it dampens. I mean, it's going to obviously dampen over time. But in that immediate sense, when everyone's what that's all about, what the whole football situation and the player was all about is, even though it wasn't really football impact, I think, that caused the cardiac arrest, but I'm not necessarily. I think it could be a lot of factors, including temperature, just natural heart, just all kinds of different reasons. Usually just one hit to the ribs is not going to cause you to go to cardiac arrest, but it can, especially if you puncture a rib, puncture your heart or something. There's a million different things that can happen. Point is when we're all watching and we're all having beers and we're all having a good time, and we are then confronted with sudden death, oftentimes, which is what that feels like. And it causes emotionally charged things in one direction, overcompensates in that direction. And so what Adam did talk about in this podcast, which I listened to in full with Karen Fian briefly, was he didn't like the fact that society gets so swept up in one thing. And he kind of takes a contrarian position to how everyone, and they talk about Skip Bayless. It's because of the Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp news clip that Chris Loxamana, Max Pata, whatever, brought in. And by the way, Chris and Dawson doing what they did there, that was very listenable. I just got to be honest, guys. Like, I'm excited to see podcasts that are like this. I didn't really know what I wanted Adam to do after you get rid of Gina, but something like this worked really, really well. Trending topics. They all felt really comfortable. Sense like a really comfortable room, like nobody was walking on pins and needles. I know we're all having like old Gina syndrome. I know, shoot, I hear you. I've had this is a real thing. He knows about this too. So when you're in a really high pressure situation, and in this case, a lot of times when you're in battle or in war, which I haven't actually served in that sense, but I've heard about it, which is, if you're constantly on edge because you're feeling like you might get shot at, or any big loud bang could be something coming at you, you're in a different frame of mind, and you can't just go back to being normal and not reacting to loud sounds when you get back to, Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma, or Alabama. I can't remember which state Tuscaloosa is in. One of them, probably a Tuscaloosa in Texas. You're in Tuscaloosa, Texas, and you can't relax because you hear a loud bang. The barn door shuts too hard, and you run down and be like, "God damn Muslims," or whatever you scream out, whatever it is. So the point is, nothing against Muslims. That was a joke. Now the point is that we have this like PTSD syndrome type, PTSG, no more Gina syndrome, and it hits you. And then, but what hit me, not having listened to a lot of Gina over the last year, not really being conditioned to hate it, was that this was very calming. What was happening here? It wasn't it didn't feel like somebody was interjecting all the time for no reason and derailing things. Because if what we are is giving our ears and giving the time to listen to something, we want that time to be valuable, which gets into the deeper part of this podcast that I was thinking about, which was, I was like, well, what happened here? And why am I excited about this? Why should I care about AdamCarolla? Like what? Like I'm a 43-year-old man. Like I should be doing other things with my life, and we are doing other things with our life. Understand that just because we're on here way too much, this is our guilty pleasure as human beings. We are probably productive individuals in many other walks of life. As you can see, we're productive, and we can manipulate words and links and posts and understand things, which is not all that special in the overarching understanding of human intelligence. Yeah, a lot of people can make posts and stuff like that, but when you're technical on the computer, you're probably technical on a computer. And so a lot of us here are technical on computers, as you can see by a lot of the back and forth. So the point of all this is, why are we focused on this? Why do we care? And I'll tell you why we care. There's a reason why. I'm digging into the psychology. I was trying to understand, like, why do I care? I care because of the number of hours I spent listening to Adam, who is a great storyteller. It's obvious. He paints a picture with his words and replays things which he thinks are real in his own brain, but he does a very good job of re-representing those to us in descriptive language and making you chuckle, and they're using the right words to give you a visual that makes you laugh. That's an art form when it comes to podcasting. He's still excellent at doing that. Now, so all these years of listening to him and listening to Dr. Drew and forming a lot of opinions about relationships and people off them, okay, from all those hours of listening to that when we all just complained all the time about how awful the show was and why can't he get rid of Gina? Like, what we're looking for reasons to make it better, make it better, make it better. Well, we've just been complaining for years. I mean, Gina's been on the show for like 8 years, she said. Where's that post about what she says about leaving the show? I shouldn't focus on Gina. I mean, she's gone. But you can't help it, right? Yeah, Adam says goodbye. Adam's ratings are going up. Yeah, Adam's ratings will go up this week. They can't not. When you start a podcast in 2023 with my girlfriend, and you still have a business with your wife that you're in the middle of divorcing, that's some good pod. Let's just say it. Are there any conservative haters in this? Oh yeah, we can get political. Which, why should we? Right? It's not funny at all. But it's helpful for understanding. And I do need to talk a little bit more. Gina's statement. Here we go. We're gonna Sakic probably a productive individual in real life. I mean, he's sitting in the suite at all the Avalanche games, watching them lose to Vegas, or wherever they played the other night. Today brings sadness. Yes, but more than that, I have such gratitude for Adam, who hired me at the beginning. Okay, so starting by thanking. That is the way to go out when you're fired, is to thank the person who fired you. At the beginning of 2015, that is 7 to 8 years ago, if we get our math correct. So it's like, it wasn't in 8 whole years, because 2023 would have been the 8th year, honey. We'll get the math straight, Miss Mensa. In that time, I've been let go from, or maybe it was full 8 years. Did it start in 2015? And I never can add, even though I do math all the time, I can never add these. Like, all right, is it 8 full years or is it 7 full years? Should we care? Well, she's saying whole, so let's make sure it's 8. 2015 is 1, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. That is 8 whole years, actually. If she started on January 1, 2015, she's right. I'll re-administer your Mensa badge. In that time, I'd been let go from 2 major market radio shows. So you're creating a hat trick of being fired. We get it. Unfortunately, it is very common. Yeah, I know in this business it is. That's true. But Adam stuck with me. Oh, you're not done. Adam stuck with me, encouraging me to find my voices. Oh, Nancy Grad is, of course, not the reason why you got fired. And a dig for deep talents. I didn't know I had, like, Eat your feelings. Yeah, neither did we. I don't know about your eat your feelings. That was probably a segment. Thank you to my ACS brothers. There are no sisters at the ACS who never made me feel like the odd girl out. Yeah. Thank you to the star-studded guests who were so kind and hyphen and sparing. A lot of hyphens going on here. And thank you to all the wonderful people who have listened to the show and reached out over the years with love. Okay. Thus ends a chapter that I deeply cherished. XOGG. That is the best initial for her. Thank you for all of it. Well, I mean, it's as classy as we're going to get out of Gina, and I haven't read the comments in here. Do we just bash the living crap out of her for no reason? She just added this. P.S. I wrote a book. It's not a memoir and it's not a cookbook, but I hope your interest is piqued. I wasn't planning on announcing that yet, but it'll be out soon. I hope you buy it. I hope you buy my book. Well, anyone can sell anything they want. Yeah, of course they weren't expecting this. Yeah, let me tell you exactly when Adam decided to fire them, like the day before. That, like, you understand, Norm Pattis just died. Like, somebody posted, there's another thread about Adam losing sponsors, and I'm like, don't think the no ads is a bad thing right now. I was like, there was a time when there were no ads. Oh, Baby Butter says, thank you for getting rid of Gina. Hold on a second. I want to find that post. Adam's ratings. I did manage to post in here. So no, wait a minute. It's not this one. It's the other post about Adam saying losing all his sponsors. Who did that? Putting me in this position where I'm actually going to defend what's going on here, because nobody is mentioning. I mentioned it right now in the podcast, including Adam, that he lost nearly all his sponsors. I listened last season. The only thing is plugging these other podcasts. There were no ads. I agree with you. There were no ads, Flogsman. I think that the reason there are no ads is because somebody's saying they got to form a new company. I think that Norm Pattis passing away, given that he was such a figurehead of the whole advertising framework with Podcast One, meaning he sold Podcast One to LiveX, which is also having a lot of difficulty at a bad time in the market right now. Even though COVID isn't destroying things, the inflation sort of and the people pulling money out of the market was destroying things, especially at the end of the year. So new ad revenue contracts being negotiated without Norm anymore. And there was probably we've been guessing, like, people here are pretty good about guessing stuff. Somebody said they thought the contract was supposed to be up at the end of 2023. Oh yeah, this is what I'm going to deduce what happened here. I think the contract was supposed to be up, not like December 31st of a few days ago, not 2022. I think the contract for Bald and Gina, if they had a contract or the advertising contracts that Adam had negotiated with Norm and with Podcast One, I think all those things were supposed to actually go till the end of 2023, which was this year. So meaning Bald and Gina both probably thought that they were still locked in till the end of 2023. That's what I think they thought. And Norm like passing away, and Adam like divorce and money and the way costs are split up, and just looking at the numbers, and Adam just wanting a change. I think that contract basically is over now. It's obviously over for Gina and Bald. And with no ads being on the show here in the beginning of the year, then it makes me think that there's a whole new way that they're going to be getting ads, and they're not going to be splitting with Podcast One or however they were doing it before. And that could not have fully been planned out or predicted before Norm passed away, in my opinion, because he's a huge factor there. And I don't think it was expected that he was passing away, but I don't know. And so it just makes me think that yeah, there's a lot of complex issues that happened all at once. So I don't think there won't be any more ads on the show. I think the way Adam's going to get them are now kind of an open question. And it's something that we should talk about, because monetizing the podcast platform in this new 2023 generation is very intriguing. I myself, and this YouTube channel is getting really close to the number of watch hours I need to be monetized. I've been doing this podcast and YouTube videos and stuff for, 13 years plus. And I still don't have enough watch hours, but I'm really, really, really close. I'm like a couple hundred hours short. You have to get them over a period of 12 months. Point is, I'm probably going to get there. And you can monetize things like every time you put a video, you get ads. It's not necessarily a lot of money all the time, but the amount of content you can put out and the way that you can put it out is completely up to you. And Adam still has a following. I want to know, and this is why I might actually set up an OnlyFans account, because why not? And I'm going to set up an OnlyFans account just like I do, where I'm me. There's no hiding me. Like, it's always Ken Braverman on every anonymous board, and I am Ken Braverman. I'll do that just to find out if she's getting more traffic right now, because she has to, right? She has to. And if that works, then Adam still works. And if Adam can make good pod and people, and he's getting the names of people out and giving a positive, showing their positive side to the world in podcast form so that people like them, and he's not yelling and complaining and ranting about something that he probably saw on right-wing media, when he's actually talking to someone who's explaining things that she's putting in her anus, which is way too much, girl. Like, I leave something to the imagination, honey. Like, it's almost too much. She was good, and she was cool. She was good, and she was cool. And I think she's cute. She's all the above, and she's certainly not shy, but she was a lot. She was a lot. Like, I feel like I could get enough of her OnlyFans in one day and be good for my life. But she's cool. I don't want to criticize her. All right. So listen, that's the podcast for the sub 4 for the day. There are things happening here. There's a couple hundred people plus hanging out here, when normally there'd be less than 100 most of the time. So I would say let's provide Adam with, let's provide Adam with reasonable responses to things. We're not going to be happy with some of the political stuff, but to bring this full circle, we're listening to a lot of one human being at one time, and we're getting our fill. Yeah. Oh my God. I can end with this because this is so true and so funny. So, oh my gosh, back in the day when you used to listen to the radio, okay, just what a podcast. He's doing these as YouTube videos too. I would never watch a YouTube video podcast. Much rather listen to it and do something else, like driving, whatever, right? You're listening to it while you're doing something else. Well, when you were listening on the radio, before Adam had the Man Show, before Adam did any of these things, nobody had any idea what Adam Carolla looked like. You just heard his raspy voice coming through the airwaves, and nobody had a clue. I remember listening to that radio show for at least a year or two before having ever seen a picture of Adam Carolla. That does not happen anymore. It doesn't happen at all anymore. Now you bring somebody on the show, and I can go look at her anus if I want to. I don't want to really. No, I don't need to look at that. I was fine just listening to the podcast, actually, but you can. Okay, so you can do that if you want to engage. We can have a whole other discussion about whether or not that is healthy to engage or whatever, or what that leads to. If you can get your rocks off like at home, paying for like people online, it's weird. I still got to admit, it's weird. It's foreign to me, and I'm just like Adam in that I have never used it, but I guess I'm going to sign up for an account just because of the podcast today. Wow. So, yikes. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll send her a message and send her this video, obviously. So that was Karen Fee, and she was good. The pod was good. Adam was good. Adam was honest. There's not much more you can ask for. It reminds me more of listening back in the day before I knew what his face looked like. All right. hey, let's enjoy our podcast. May all of them be listenable, and we'll just wait to see what the anniversary of January 6th tomorrow will be when it comes to Adam Carolla Show podcast material. All right. Good luck. May all your podcasts be listenable.